Okay, so now we're looking at John Ashbery's Some Trees. It was written very early. He was a student at Harvard University when he wrote this remarkable poem. And this is our chance to do, this is our only chance to do a close, really close reading, a complete close reading of a poem in this chapter. And so we'll be focusing on how the language works. And Ashbery is a practitioner of what used to be called extremely difficult, opaque language. I think we've gotten used to it. So let me read the poem and then I'll assign the parts. Here we go. Some trees, or some trees, some trees. These are amazing, each joining a neighbor as though speech were a still performance. Arranging by chance to meet as far this morning from the world as agreeing with it, you and I are suddenly what the trees try to tell us we are. That their merely being there means something. That soon we may touch, love, explain. And glad not to have invented such comeliness, we are surrounded. A silence already filled with noises, a canvas on which emerges a chorus of smiles, a winter morning. Placed in a puzzling light and moving, our days put on such reticence, these accents seem their own defense. Okay, so here we go. Max, you have these. Molly, you have amazing. Anna, you have each joining a neighbor. Allie, you have as though speech were still performance. Dave and Amaris, you have, ready? Arranging by chance to meet as far this morning from the world as agreeing with it. You have that whole thing. Good luck. All right. Okay, Emily, you have you and I. Okay. Max, you have what the trees try to tell us we are. Molly, you have merely being there. Why don't you take merely being there means something? Anna, you and I have touch, love, explain. And Allie, you have glad not to have invented such comeliness. And we're going to do all the rest of it together. We are surrounded, a silence already filled with noises, a canvas on which emerges a chorus of smiles, a winter morning, placed in a puzzling light and moving. Who's next? Amaris, are you next? Dave. Dave, you have moving. Amaris, you have these accents seem their own defense. And Emily, you have reticence. That one had your name on it. Okay. Some trees. All right. Oh, we forgot the title. Let's do the title together. Some trees. How does it work? Translate that. Some trees. What's some mean?
Could mean any old trees.
Any old trees. Just some trees. Anything else?
Could mean some trees out of
some out of many.
Trees.
Some particular.
It could mean some trees, as in some pig.
Yeah, as in some, like some trees. Which do you think it is, by the way? Some trees. Hubba, hubba. Some trees. These are some trees. Which do you think it is? We don't know. The some that suggests just a few not important could be the way into this poem. A little like William Carlos Williams' poem, Lines, just some trees. I'm writing about some trees. Okay. Max, these are amazing. What do you have, these?
These,
Oh, this
yes.
is easy. What does it refer to?
Well, it refers to the trees, presumably.
The trees. Mm-hmm.
It's one of these indicating words that we've sort of come across many times.
Yeah, and in our course, when you get to this, you highlight it and put some, you decorate it and you put an arrow to it.
It's like the this of Emily
It's like the
Dickinson's
this. So these are going to, it's important because the lines of the poem are amazing in a sense. Did you have amazing, Molly? Tell us about amazing.
It's sort of awe-inducing, beautiful, stupendous.
Yep, anything else? Amazement.
Like
There's a relationship between amazement and maze.
baffling, sort of.
Yeah, I think also
Astonishing.
tangled. And I mean, if you describe some trees as amazing, what do you get? What's the image that we get? Oh, it's Anna's, the joining a neighbor as the. Do you have each joining a neighbor?
I have each joining a neighbor, yeah.
How can trees join a neighbor?
Well, if you think about like a huge forest, that, all the trees.
Or even just a little grove
Just a
of
little
some
grove.
trees, yeah. Each
Yeah.
joins a neighbor how?
Because they all kind of occupy the same space. They all sort of grow up together. They
Not
You
at the
know?
roots. They're not actual,
No.
except in the case of some specific kinds of trees. They are individualized botanically, but where do they join?
Like underground?
No,
Not underground?
they're not joined underground. Oh, I suppose the roots can
Yeah,
tangle.
there is
Yeah. Okay, but more likely the branches
Branches
and the
are-
leaves. Yeah. So each joining a neighbor. They have a, what kind of relationship would you say that trees have to each other?
Could use a biology word and say symbiotic.
You're being fancy. When you look at some trees, do you think they have a relationship in the way we mean it?
How's the way we mean it?
You have someone that you really like in your life, and that's called a relationship. Do the trees have that relationship? You're being too much of an Ivy League student. Just give me the plain answer. No,
No.
trees don't have the same kind of relationship, except if we do what to them?
Cross-pollinate?
Anthropomorphize. If we do what poets have always done, which is to imagine them as having a relationship. All right. Each joining a neighbor as though Steve's speech were still performance. Do you have that really difficult line? What do you do with that?
I read it as communication without necessary movement.
Okay.
With
How can
not
speech,
necessarily.
with respect to trees that are crossing each other and being a grove, how can you describe that as if speech were still performance?
Well, I just kind of imagine the branches just kind of, intermingling with the air and with each other, and just, kind of like sharing that space.
You be a tree and
somehow.
I'll be a tree, okay? That's what we have to do. We have to have.
Well.
No, come here. We have to have.
Interpretive dance.
Yes, it's an interpretive dance. That's exactly right. Okay, now what's as though speech were still performance? We didn't talk, the trees, you and I, but what did we do? We enacted a still performance. Yeah, as though speech were still performance. So there's something about these trees interacting, talking, speaking a language that's okay. So it's very confusing, by the way, this poem. It's beautiful but confusing. All right, so the two of you, I think, Dave and Amaris, you have arranging by chance to meet as far this morning from the world as agreeing it. This is classic Ashbery. This is unidiomatic. Go ahead, translate it, paraphrase it.
So before that we have established that the trees are next to each other, but here Ashbery moves us forward to the trees actually meeting. So that accident of proximity becomes sort of conscious and deliberate. We're not sure exactly how they meet, but it seems this place that's far from the world as agreeing. So agreeing implies a distance.
Wow.
Whereas disagreeing implies encounter.
Wow, okay. So, Dave, is it possible, if I want to meet you, is it possible for me to arrange by chance to meet you? It's actually kind of a paradox. You can't really arrange by chance, but you can, can't you?
I thought it was just a paradox.
It is a paradox, except that if I want to meet you, and I know that you're at the Klaus Oldenburg button outside the University of Pennsylvania Library every day at noon, I can arrange by chance to. Oh, funny that you're here. So it's a paradox. It's a classic Ashberian paradox. Arranging by chance to meet. How did we meet? Were we intended to meet? Okay, there's something about the two people, presumably. Arranging by chance to meet. Now, as far this morning from the world as agreeing with it, this is difficult.
Because as far could be either as far from the world, or it could be as far as agreeing with it.
So we have two idioms in English, as far as. We also have as far from. But here it uses both. To meet as far this morning from the world as agreeing with it. Okay, Amaris got sort of in the direction of trying to explain that. To meet as far this morning from the world. So we are meeting at a place. Go ahead, Amaris. Where is it?
Distant from the world if we are agreeing with it.
To the extent to which we disagree with the world or agree with the world. which is to say not at all, or not much, we pace off that distance from the world and meet there, which implies that the two figures of this poem, or multiple, we don't know what it is yet, it implies that they have arranged by chance as in chance operations, but yet we disagree with the world to the same extent and found each other based on our disagreement with the world. What would the world mean in this context? It's tough, but...
I mean, I would say like standards of being, criteria of conforming.
So when I say, oh, Amaris, you're graduating with a BA, welcome to the world, what do I mean? You grimace just even thinking about that.
A world of maybe blue collar, white collar labor, where I'd have to fit
The world
into
of work, the world of
yeah.
reality, as the parents of college students say, welcome to reality. Okay, so the world is like the hubbub, the New York school, the hum-colored cabs and the Madison Avenue buses, that world. And this seems to be a place where there are trees, so implicitly this is a place outside the world. And we come there this morning, having met by chance because we disagree with the world to the same extent. Pretty hard, but when you spell it out, it's not so hard at all. Okay, so you and I, who's got that?
You, the reader, I, the author.
Oh, you're being fancy right away. Can you be less fancy?
Or maybe just some sort of obscure second person in the
or maybe
place
not
of the
even
poem.
obscure. Maybe it's a love poem, and this is a poem to the you, saying, you and I met here under these trees, right? And Allie, so we met under these trees, and what are these trees doing? Allie's not doing it anymore. What are these trees doing?
Directing air traffic?
They're directing air traffic. They're independent beings who have no necessary relationship, but they are being amazing in the amaze sense. These are some trees, and we stand under these trees. They indicate something, you and I. So it could be a love poem. Right? You and I, who's got this, are suddenly what the trees try to tell us we are? Is that you, Max?
Yeah.
What could that possibly mean? First of all, the trees can't tell us.
Well, it's a great kind of a reversal of this sort of poetic project or the descriptive project of trying to say what something inanimate is, or trying to anthropomorphize it. I think that's a word we said earlier. Personify it, or kind of or bring it alive with language. Rather, the subjects of the poem, Ashbery or the persona, and his companion are instead being defined by the trees.
Yes, we are suddenly what the trees try to tell us we are. What would the trees try to tell us we are? Speak for the trees, Max. What do the trees say?
I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees.
Ashbery and Seuss, yes. A couple of peas in a pod. Max,
Sorry.
what do the trees try to tell us? Speak in the words of the trees. Come on, you can do it. Hey, John and friend, we have something to tell you. What? This is the key to the poem, so I'm kind of forcing you to say something that's pretty difficult.
That is difficult.
Talk as the trees. What are they saying?
That we are here, and that means something.
Yes, in fact, because
There's
there's
a
a colon.
Yeah.
There's a colon. What I'm asking you comes next.
Sure.
Okay, and is that Molly?
Yes, it is.
What? Go ahead. And then we'll do this, and then we'll take a break.
That just the presence of the trees is significant, and then therefore the presence of the two people together
So
also.
now speak to the tree. You be the trees, some trees, speaking to this couple who just met. Presumably they arranged by chance to meet as far from the world as the extent to which they agree with the world, which is to say maybe disagree with it. They pace out that distance, and they find themselves standing under these trees that have a relationship. And the trees say,
We're here.
we're just here.
We're here, and that means something.
It means something to be here. That you are here signifies. We do a still performance. We have nothing to say except that we are trees, and trees have what kind of relationship?
An amazing.
Incidental one.
An incidental one. They're just trees, some trees. What a model for the concept of relationship. Actually, I think this poem I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I think this poem is a love poem, but I also think it's a poem about a higher order than love, if that's possible, which is relation. Meaning is made by relation. Meaning never happens in isolation. One needs juxtaposition. Here you have the juxtaposition of these two people who don't really know each other, who are arranged by chance to meet, standing under a model for accidental relationship. And the trees are saying, all you need to do is be here. It's not a nature poem. It could be read as a nature poem. This poem has been read at weddings, for instance, about relationship, about the accident, the lovely accident of relationship, but it's going further. Merely being there means something. Meaning can get generated by accidental relationship if there is any kind of message that postmodern poetry is giving to us in this course and in general. It is right there. Meaning is created by juxtaposition, and juxtaposition is accidental, but don't think of it as inhuman. Think of it as actually quite natural. The world is prior to meaning. We derive meaning from the accidental relationships in botany, for instance. So when we come back, we're going to have to deal with this triad, touch, love, explain, because it's the second thing the trees are saying to this couple. So let's deal with that when we get back.